Welcome to Level Up with Tipi, where we tackle the issues and challenges affecting 911 telecommunicators. Your host, Tipi Brookins, has decades of leadership experience in public safety communications. Here's Tipi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today on Level Up with Tipi. I am super excited to begin part two of our wellness and mental health piece that we have decided to do this month. And this morning, I have the honor to have with us Miss Demeka Owens from the DC 911 Office of Unified Communications. She is the wellness coordinator there. And what better person would be to join this conversation? So I'm going to turn this over to Demeka so that she can introduce herself.
Hi, Tippy. How are you? And hi, everyone. Thank you, Tippy, for this opportunity. I am really grateful for this moment. My name is Demeka Owens, formerly Demeka McCleave. I am a second year student at the Catholic University, studying clinical social work, master of social work, and my second year. I've been in behavioral health for about 15 years. It is such a joy to be able to walk with individuals on their journey of wellness. So throughout my life, I have worked with children, families, and working in the communities, helping individuals regarding their mental health and wellness.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. And so we're going to go right into this important conversation. And today we'll be really speaking about psychological safety in the emergency communication centers. And so when an emergency happens, we call 911, but who supports the person who answers that call? And so when you think of that, there's so many pieces behind that we think about. But again, Demeka is going to help answer some of those questions. And so the phrase beyond the headset implies that there is a massive part of a dispatcher's reality that the public and sometimes even leadership doesn't see. We ask, who supports the person who answers the call? And what are the unique psychological tolls of this job that makes standard workplace support systems insufficient?
Absolutely. That is a great question. I've been in public safety going on 3 years. And what I have noticed is that people don't call 911 just to say hello or how you doing. This is a crisis center. And so um, our telecommunicators, when they take the call, they are processing what in the moment, real time, of what's happening, a crisis call. And so in counseling, we call it vicarious trauma. They are taking in someone else's um, trauma from taking the call. And so they need tremendous support. Um, Here at DC, we have created a wellness program where individuals can retreat to the wellness office to decompress. And sometimes, some telecommunicators, they will come in and they will use this wellness space to decompress because vicarious trauma is real. And most of the time, telecommunicators don't even understand the impact of taking in someone else's trauma or vicarious trauma, and which leaves a a huge gap in regarding taking care of themselves and needing a space to really decompress. So I am thankful and grateful for the space that DC has created for telecommunicators to come in to the wellness department to decompress. We have created a wellness room so individuals can go in and decompress after a traumatic call.
That's amazing. And you mentioned, what our telecommunicators are dealing with in certain times is crisis communications. People are calling 911 because they are in a crisis and they're looking for the help of that telecommunicator in order to help them work through that crisis. And so the other part that you mentioned, vicarious trauma is real. And so ensuring that we're educating our telecommunicators to understand what that looks like, because like you said, some of them, they don't even understand the impact of the vicarious trauma. And so, just the things that, DC 911, what you guys are doing, it's amazing because, again, to have a structured wellness program in order to support your members, I think that's something that is needed. And it shows that you all are being proactive and not reactive. And I definitely, that's amazing. And so when we talk about the foundation of psychological safety means creating an environment where people feel safe to admit that they are struggling without fear of being labeled weak or unfit for duty. What does a lack of psychological safety look like in a comm center, and how does it impact retention and burnout?
Great question. When people want to come to work, they want to feel safe. Um, they want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like what they do has an impact to the overall you know conundrum of what they do. And so um, individuals need a space where they can just be themselves. Um, they need somewhere where they can retreat to. They need somewhere where they can be able to express how they are feeling um, without feeling like they did something wrong, or without feeling like they don't matter. They need a space um, where they feel safe enough to be able to express their feelings and emotions without it uh, being compromised. Um, and so when PSAPs create a space or a safety net for telecommunicators to be able to be themselves, the outcome is greater. When people don't feel safe, when they don't feel as if that they what they do matter, or when they feel as if if they um, express how they feel, then that creates burnout, and people don't want to be in a space where they are not valued. And so having PSAPs to create a space for individuals um, to come in and to a confidentiality space where people can be themselves and feel valued, people it's most likely people will stay, and people normally stay where they are most valued.
And you hit on the key right there. People will stay where they feel that they are most valued. And so with telecommunicators, they matter. They want to feel like they're matter, but that they matter. And work, they want to know that their work has an actual impact on the public, right? Because like you said, when a person doesn't feel valued, then why am I here? Then let me go to the next center where they're doing other things where I believe that I will be, accepted, and my impact will be shown. And so, thank you so much for highlighting that again, just making sure that our telecommunicators know that they matter. Their voice, it matters. And so, when we are talking about building the safety net, operationalizing support, if we want to truly answer the question of who supports them, we have to look at the practical infrastructure. How can leadership transition from being merely sympathetic to actively building concrete daily systems of psychological safety?
That's a great question. And one of the things I find fascinating and helpful for DC 911 is to implement trauma informed care. Trauma informed care helps to create the space where individuals can come in and be themselves. And when trauma-informed care is embedded in the culture and is embedded in the systems, I think individuals would find that space a place of solace. So trauma-informed care emphasizes how you treat an individual when they come in with sensitive information regarding their feelings and emotions. It's how you speak to them. It's how your tone level. It's how you interact with them. It's making them feel as if that they are in a space where they are cared for. And so having that trauma-informed care and that trauma-informed space embedded in the systems of PSAPs will change um, how people view the way individuals need to be cared for.
And thank you so much for that. And I think, as we're speaking today and as we're talking about this, I think just our telecommunicators having that understanding and that education piece as it relates to the certain things that they are experiencing. And so when you mentioned trauma-informed care and how you said that it helps to actually create the space, and if it's embedded in the process, how you treat each other, how you speak to your members, your tone and interaction. I think those are all pieces of operational training that could assist with that. But then also having professionals such as yourself being in a ECC and being able to recognize what the different signs are, vicarious trauma and understanding psychological safety, and now going to the next steps of trauma informed care. I think that is very, very important, and we should definitely consider it, even if, like I say, some of the centers may not have the capacity, but something that we should consider. And so, as we go into speaking about changing the culture for the next generation, we look to the future of emergency communications. Creating a psychologically safe environment isn't just a wellness initiative, it's a survival strategy for the profession. What is your vision for the future 911 center? What is one step a director or supervisor can take today to start shifting that culture?
That's a great question. Um, so from my lived experience, what I have found that will, help shape the future for PSAPs is to have professional individuals embedded in the center, such as a clinical social worker. A trained professional will help the futuristic of our telecommunicators of how to um, identify mental health issues and how to stay well. Um, Embedding social workers in PSAPs is new for right now, but futuristic. Every PSAP should look and identify a professional, a clinical social worker in their PSAPs to help our telecommunicators be well and identify vicarious trauma and other things that's going on with them to help them to be well while they are at work. Um, it's very important. Mental health is very important. Staying well is very important. Um, Being a 911 telecommunicator is hard work. Um, and so having that extra support, having a professional that understands the work and the the work that comes along with being a 911 communicator or any kind of telecommunicator will help PSAPs along the way.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, as you mentioned, having that professional service provider embedded in operations is a big deal. It's very important. It's something that we probably don't think of often, but I think with so many things and things that are affecting our telecommunicators now that we see publicly, this is something that we can get in front of, working with our county governments or working with our state providers, just, putting it out there. Hey, is it possible that we can get a social worker here? But having that person there to be able to help identify mental health symptoms and understanding and the importance of communicating on how to stay well. I think that's an awesome take, especially knowing that you are going to be completing your master's in as far as being a clinician. And so the DC 911 Center, they're definitely going to be able to benefit from that. And I commend you for taking those steps forward. And so as we come to a close on this conversation, and so the one thing I really love about Level Up with Tipi and how we have this vlog, these are important conversations. Can you give us just, an overall thought about wellness, about mental health, as far as being in a center, as far as the support for our telecommunicators, and just letting them know, just give us one closing thought that you may have that you want to share.
Sure, absolutely. One closing thought is that people are first. People are first in from a clinical social worker standpoint. People are first, and from a leadership standpoint, people are first. And you got to figure out how you're going to take care of your people while they are here at work. And the best way to take care of them is to provide what they need. And what they need is support. They need emotional support. Um, and so providing that emotional support to them while they are here at work will go a long way.
Demeka, that's amazing. Just making sure that we remember that our people are first and ensuring they have the emotional support that they are needed in order to do this job. And we didn't really go into it, but the one thing I can say is that, with GovWorx and Comms Coach, there are tools there within our platform that will help centers to be able to identify, calls and help to identify the types of incidents that our telecommunicators are taking every day or throughout the day. So just utilizing those tools as well. And so as we wrap up, here at GovWorks with Comms Coach, we are training smarter and we're building better. And so let's take your agency to the next level. I'm Tippy and we're just getting started.